Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. With me is Hayden Howerton right over there. We've got a jam-packed show for you guys today, recapping SMU Stanford, the film room with Hayden, and of course, coast to coast on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by Northwest Insurance Agency. It starts right now.
Remember when your biggest worry was finding parking at Dallas Hall? Now it's protecting your home, your car, maybe even that first business. That's where Northwest Insurance Agency comes in. Exclusive coverage designed by Mustangs for Mustangs who've galloped into the real world. Protect what you've built and move forward with confidence, because once a Mustang, always moving forward.
Northwest Insurance.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let we go.
That's right, Hayden. It is this Tuesday night, maybe into Wednesday if you're listening to this on your drive in. Thanks for joining us as SMU comes off a 34-10 win over Stanford. And look, you've got to make sure that as you get down the stretch of this year, you don't want anything popping up over the course of your holiday that takes away from all of those things with Thanksgiving and, Christmas coming up and all the holidays around the end of the year. Make sure your insurance is all lined up. Give Mark Villasana, proud SMU alum, a call, 214-352-5656. He'll get it all lined up, just like SMU had Stanford lined up, and they took care of business on Saturday, Hayden.
34-10, man. It was not quite the 40-10 as far as it felt, where everything went right a year ago. But you do improve to 4-2 overall, 2-0 in ACC play, and really that's all you can ask for as of right now. It was a brutally hot day in Ford Stadium with the blackout. Shout out to all the fans that did make the trip out there. But I think this was one of the few just kind of check the box games on the schedule where you get in, you get out, and all right, on to the next week. Where you do improve to 5-0 in the black jerseys. That was cool. But besides that, there wasn't really a lot of energy around this game. It was kind of just one of those, you roll into it at an 11 o'clock game. And I don't know. I don't even think the broadcast team showed up. It was pretty brutal, to say the least. And I'm appreciative to be on a nationally available programming, but it seemed like they did no preparation. I mean, they talked about how Rhett left for Miami the second that Sonny left for TCU, which obviously didn't happen. They called us TCU a bunch of times, which was disrespectful. They said Derek McFall's first collegiate touchdown, which I don't know if you saw him last year or not. They said Isaiah Smith was a James Madison transfer. I mean, look, if CW needs a fact checker, I mean, I'm right here. I can help you guys out on when we play Wake Forest here in a couple weeks on the network. But as far as the actual on-the-field product, you're heavy favorites against a team that struggled historically. And I think we saw better maturity from SMU as far as taking care of business late in this ball game compared to last week against Syracuse and even some of the previous games so far this year. Overall, SMU got in. They got the victory. They improved to 2-0 in the ACC. And Billy, that's all we were really looking for.
Yeah, I think Dean made a good point on our post-game pod. What were you going to learn about SMU? Because everything, if SMU looks great, obviously awesome, take care of business. But it's also like, yeah, okay, but it's Stanford. And I mean, that unfortunately is where Stanford's at. SMU fans, just so you guys know, Stanford's riding with SMU. SMU's trying to ride with Stanford as far as taking the ACC by storm. They are trying to support each other. But still, Stanford right now not holding up its end of the bargain on the ACC side of things. And at the same time, at least they're not BC and UNC. So there is that aspect of it. But look, as far as somebody to hold up their end of the bargain, we know that our friends at Status Jet can make sure that you are taken care of on your world-class experience with any of their jets that they get you, your family, your friends, your coworkers into for the trip of a lifetime. Make sure you mention on theponyexpress.com for a discount on a round-trip flight. Reach out to David Henry and his team today. We've got a couple people riding with them. Clemson weekend. It's a great opportunity for you guys to see what they're all about, see how they can take care of you in the skies and on the ground and create the experience of a lifetime at Status Jet. Shall we get into how everybody did on the keys to the game this week?
Man, I got to get better at this, man. I feel like I'm 1 for 3 every week. But I talked about first key to the game. You had to jump on Stanford early. You didn't want this to be a let them hang around and they might beat you kind of ball game. So I said we had to score first. And while it wasn't pretty, SMU did not get the ball and go right down the field and score. You go 3 and out and back-to-back offensive possessions. Really, you run 6 plays in a row because of a muffed punt where SMU gets the ball right back. But it took until that third possession to call what I would a fast start offensively. You did score first. You get a touchdown on the board. You played from ahead. Technically, we accomplished this goal, but it was not what I had in mind. Second goal, which we did not accomplish, no matter which way you look at it, run the football. 35 carries for 160 plus is what I had written down of what we needed to win this game. 23 carries for 123 yards. And I'm going to cover this a little bit more in the offensive section, but I am disappointed in the run game currently. Penalties, less than 7 is what I said. Maybe I need to say less than or equal to 7 penalties for 53 yards. None of these penalties really hurt you except for lining up in the neutral zone on the Stanford field goal. It led to a converted 4th and 1 after the 5-yard walk, but the drive ended in a goal line stop on 4th down. So it was not one of those that ended up hurting you, but at the time, I mean, you should have seen the board. If y'all weren't on that, I mean, people were swearing this was the tipping point in the game. So you go 1 for 3 on the goal sheet. You walk away with a pretty lopsided win. It's going to have to be cleaner going forward. I know it's not the same goals that Rhett Lashley's setting, but for us, it's what I'm looking at of how SMU has been historically successful is kind of how I base my goals for week to week.
And I would say the penalties, which, man, that celebration call, which, like, I am of the belief of, like, all right, guys, like, do we have to do the, like, in the box for the seatbelt, like, every single time or whatever? But Kyron did make I thought it was a great play, first and foremost. Like, it was a great PBU. And it was just very normal, like, a very normal thing. So, like, Rhett going all, he went off. Like, I haven't seen Rhett. I think the officials kind of knew as well. And I mean, I think because they let him go for that long, like, I thought for sure we were going to see a 15-yard kind of matching unsportsmanlike something. Like, I really thought that's what they were going to do because he was going off. And I'm sure on TV you could see some of it, but I mean, he kept going for a while. So,
it's every week. I mean, and I don't mean just the penalties. I mean, at this point, Rhett gets fired up every week, which I love because here's what I'll say. It's just inconsistent about the officiating crew, where they tell the band to not play this week when, let's just be for real. But it ends up being one of those things to where each ACC crew calls things individually. And when I was with the Patriots and the Titans, for that matter, part of the team meeting was talking about who the head official was and what their most called penalties were, because it varies from crew to crew. What I'll say, doing this, I don't think deserves a 15-yard penalty.
I don't even know.
But for whatever reason, the flag was thrown. Rhett got heated, rightfully so, in my opinion, and the refs heard it all night.
I thought it was a heart at first, so I don't know. Like, I heart PBUs, and they did the seatbelt or something. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But good for Kyron Chambers for making that play. That's something that he needs to continue to do overall when it comes to making plays. Maybe he'll think twice, and I don't even mean that in a bad way, but you don't have to celebrate every play. The no fly zone when ball goes 10 yards past the receiver is just awesome. But look, Hayden, the only thing that could make a win on Saturday at Clemson, which we'll be previewing later this week with a special guest as well. And the only way we could celebrate that win is with our friends at Socorro Tequila. Make sure you enjoy a nice, whether it be neat, on the rocks, make yourself a margarita. We've been making, Hayden, you'll like this, little water, little lemon juice, and a little Socorro Blanco tequila. Just
I like it.
Outstanding, really clean. Just that's what Socorro is all about. And Socorro means help. So it can help you take the edge off a little bit when watching the Mustangs, or have it in celebration. And that's what we look to do with our friends at Socorro. We'll be really, I think, putting together some fun events with them as well. So kind of stay tuned on that as the season and into the off season when we've got more time on the weekends too, to kind of do some things with Socorro. So we're really looking forward to this partnership with them continuing to evolve, but we appreciate our friends at Socorro. So find it at your local liquor store or click the link in our episode description to shop it online. And when you order 3 bottles, you get free shipping. So pretty good deal there. Grades, keys to the game, and then grading it out. This is like you said in the open, a 34-10 win that just didn't feel that great.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and I don't want to be negative. I think last year I was very positive of this team. I don't want to be the guy that's very negative this year. So grade wise, I started higher. I came down a little bit. Besides Baylor, I don't think this offense has just played to the level that we're expecting them to so far. On Saturday against Stanford, 28 points, 369 yards, no turnovers. First time this year. I mean, that was the highlight of this offense on Saturday for me. More than the big runs, more than some of these big plays. The fact that Kevin took care of the football before this next week, huge. But you have some explosive plays on Saturday against Stanford where this offense looks unstoppable. But when you take a deeper dive, I just think it was average. You have the slow start that I briefly touched on, the 2 straight 3 and outs where let's go over the first 6 plays. Incompletion, 2-yard run, sack, muffed punt, get the ball back, incompletion, 0-yard gain completion, incompletion, punt. Not exactly the barn burner that we're looking for offensively.
I don't understand. And I kind of asked Rhett a little bit about this in a way, like how important is a fast start? Just kind of here, like they talk about how important it is. I don't want to be play calling guy. Like nobody likes play calling guy. I mean, I'm sorry. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it. Like as much as I would have ran the football, back against TCU, Romello Brinson was wide open. Like players make the plays. You know what I mean? Like that's in today's day and age what you're paid to do. So when you need a good start though, and you open with pass, then you run it. Okay, fine. Give it a go. But at that point, you also know that at least going into the game, their run defense is good. So if you open with a pass and then maybe your first play, I know coaches are confident, but if it's an incomplete pass on down 1 and you're running it against a good front in the run game, you got to be okay with the fact that, all right, on that second play, like what if they shut us down for a short gain? I feel like if you open with a run play, you could be like, oh, okay, all right, let's say 2nd and 8. Now let's work something else out. Maybe we go back to the run. Maybe we really want to establish it. Maybe it picks up another 2. Guess what? Then you're in 3rd and 6, which is not where you want to be, but it's not awful either. With the screen game, with some of the things that SMU does offensively, I don't know. I'm not trying to be play calling guy, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 passes in your first 6 plays. And I know there's probably RPO in there, but can we tag something, please? I don't know. I'm trying not to.
A lot of times those first 15 are scripted too.
Yep.
Where you're trying to get certain formations out there. And again, I'm not blaming it all on like, oh my gosh, how dare we call these plays on the call sheet?
With the star quarterback, like how dare we?
Come on. But what I will say is, in the film room, I feel like more times than not, one of the runs I show, I say first play of the game, because it shows that we're establishing what the rest of this game is going to look like. Billy, we only ran 54 plays, and you had the ball for less than 24 minutes. I know you have a pick 6, but how many times are we going to blame a defensive touchdown on why we can't control the clock at this point? I'm not convinced that the run game is where we all thought it would be at this time of the year, where we were 102nd in the country, and it hurts my heart. 102nd in the country going into this game running the football. I just don't think the volume is there. And Billy, I've heard the argument that, the run game comes alive in the 4th quarter. Well, I need to see it have a pulse in the 1st quarter before I say that. We had 2 rushing yards in the 1st quarter. Yep. Fortunately, Stanford had -4, so it's not like we're getting into this battle where they can run and we can't.
Yeah.
But Stanford's rush defense was top 3rd in America. So is SMU at this point. Clemson is another top 30 rush defense. So is Louisville. Miami also has a very talented front. You are going to play some very stout defenses on the rest of this schedule, and this has to improve, or it is going to be tough sledding the rest of the conference schedule. You get to practice against a top 30 team every day. So, Billy, I know you've got some more here. But you take away, and this one last thing, you take away the Chris Johnson Jr. rush where, he rips off the big one, he outruns everybody in the country. You have 23 attempts for 35 yards.
I know. That's like, and it's hard because okay, you can't throw away some of those plays because you're like at the end of the half, they are kind of running the ball. They're kind of doing this, doing that. But you run the ball with hopes that you hit an explosive. And that's also what SMU brought in a Chris Johnson, a Derek McFall early, before his roles obviously changed. But that was kind of the idea. Rashard Smith last year. Those type of things, that's why you stick with running the ball, is because when one of those pops, then it's there. And then you end up getting those chunk plays. Like I'll live with, and I've said this because to your point about volume, I'll live with, all right, let's say first 2 drives, SMU runs the ball 4 times versus, 4 out of 6. I'm good with that because I think to Rhett's point where he kind of answered me today, you can get yourself kind of on the right side of things to start, but they're also not a believer that you can lose in the first, drive by not putting something together. Like you can kind of feel something out, you can kind of whatever. But then I would argue, why take the ball in that sense as well? You know what I mean? Like SMU takes the ball when they win the toss. So if it doesn't necessarily matter that much, then don't take the ball, just get it out of half or something. If this is kind of what it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go back and check TCU. I know for sure the last 2 games we've gone 3 and out the first series.
No, so it's they went TCU. They went 3 and out because they opened with a run.
Yep.
Hello. Went for 6-7 yards and then maybe an incomplete pass or something. But then I know the 3rd and 2 was the false start on Hibner.
Yeah, that's right.
And then 3 and out.
Yeah, I just look at the explosives, Billy. I mean, this offense is so talented, and
I know they've been missing PJ Williams for basically 2 games, so also a piece, but still
to only have 7 explosive plays, I really think, and I'm not trying to be unrealistic here. I think 12 is probably the sweet spot for this offense, and for our listeners, an explosive is a pass greater than 15 or a rush greater than 10.
Yeah,
so it's not. You don't have to have a Chris Johnson Jr. run to mark that down as an explosive, but that was our one explosive run. That was the only run greater than 10 yards all day. So I don't know. I think Stanford kept it pretty close offensively with the yardage piece. They went for 353. We went for 369. They had more explosives than we did. They had 9. We had 7. You score 13 offensive points in the second half. And again, I'm trying to keep it realistic. Yeah. You don't have to score 60 points every week against Power 4 opponents. But in the second half, the last 2 weeks, you had 7 points against Syracuse and 13 against an overall bad Stanford defense. Complementary football is going to cover you. Like the pick 6, I'm good with it, obviously. That will help it make it look better. But against some of the better teams on your schedule, all I'm looking for, somebody has to emerge offensively as a dominant force, come alive, especially in the second half. And you got to knock the lights out of people when you get the opportunity. I mean, that was a big opportunity for SMU to put the game away early, get some of the reserve guys in there, and let's rest our legs a little bit before a big road trip this coming week. But you don't do that, and now you're looking like you might be in a dogfight late in every game for the rest of the year. So I don't know. I'm very passionate about offense. I think we just have way too much talent to be performing at the level we do. I do think it'll pick up, but man, it's frustrating right now.
Yeah, it's. Did you share the grade or did we just?
Sorry,
no. I mean, you probably did. I don't know. Some listeners are gonna be like, "Listen to him, Billy. B-." Sorry,
that sounded like an F. It was a B-. Because and I still want to stay positive. You still ended up scoring 27 points offensively. Yep. Hey, I'm good with it. That will win you a lot of games if defense plays the way that they did.
Right.
But I need to see that this offense can win the big game regardless of what the defense does.
Yeah, that's the next evolution of this team. And I know there's complementary football and there's making like, I don't know. And maybe we're seeing an evolution of this SMU offense as we know it, where if Kevin doesn't turn the ball over, if Kevin plays the way he did Saturday, I mean, why can't SMU win at Clemson this week? You know what I mean? Like, I'll take 7 penalties for 53 yards on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, considering what they were, of course, it's hindsight 2020, but like that's something you take. Then it's okay, does the defense figure it out? And we're not trying to preview Clemson, we'll talk about Stanford, but the defense that will face Clemson this weekend won't face the type of offensive style that Stanford does that is brutal to play against when you're pretty thin in the secondary. I think they really did a good job of rotating a lot of players, trying to keep guys fresh. SMU knew that this was a game that they should take care of business and win. And I think a lot of their rotations and guys they got in there ultimately reflected that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But look, if you're ever down, you just need to go drive around town and roll the window down and just kind of let that cool breeze come on in. Our friends at the Thomas Auto Group can get you in a new vehicle or a pre-owned one as well. And whether you buy it off the lot or just take it for a test drive, roll those windows down on 75 right near any of their 4 dealerships, Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen, and Mitsubishi, go to Thomas Auto Group. Check out their vehicles. Was just over there this past week. Unbelievable selection. The new Expeditions are sick. Like, absolutely stellar what they're putting together over there with the Thomas Auto Group. And you mentioned on the Pony Express, and you'll get it employee pricing on those vehicles. So great reason to head up there. Again, you can just kind of get out of your car. It's messy. It's got all your stuff in it. Ride around in a new car. A little test drive with our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. So appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast.
All right, I don't want to forget this defensive grade. So
I thought you were going to say like, oh, you could drive as long as you want. You know, like Stanford did that one drive on SMU, half a quarter.
Yeah, but defense overall, I have felt a step up for this defense. I gave them a B+ on this game. I really think they could have deserved an A-. I mean, I think we're splitting hairs at that point. You only allow 10 points. You get a defensive touchdown, 96-yard pick six by Justin Medlock. You bend, you don't break. You're on the field for over 36 minutes in this game. And Stanford's style of offense is tough. It's going to be like Boston College. You know, it reminds me a little bit of what Navy used to do, where they're huddling, they're chewing clock, they're doing everything they can to establish the run and keep the defense on their heels. But another goal line stand for this defense, second week in a row. You have 8 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. The average third down distance was 7.2. This defense is really good on first and second down of stopping the run, even when they're having 3 tight ends on the field. I mean, I talk about in the film room later, I think they had an E-gap on some of these plays where they're just completely loading the box on one side. I still think the passing defense can improve. It's going to be something we talk about all year. It was much better this week, though. And you can go, oh, Hayden, look at the competition level or look at the scheme. But they put on tape. They have improved dramatically since the Baylor game. But it wasn't all good. The drive right before halftime was dreadful. 4 plays, a 12-yard pass, an 18-yard pass, a 31-yard pass, and a 14-yard touchdown pass that took up like 45 seconds. Can't have it. You're going to play a lot better quarterback wide receivers as soon as this week. And again, we're not previewing Clemson, but pass rush looked elite again. And I was talking with some of my people during the game. I'm like, man, I forgot what an elite pass rush can do. 6 sacks, 17 pressures, big day for Isaiah Smith. I mean, Turbo had 5 pressures, including a sack. And a big piece of why the defense looked better against a physical front. I mean, guys, I saw a much larger improvement on the effort piece. And we'll see that on the film room. I talked last year, edge, wall, swarm is the key to this defense. And I thought it made its first consistent appearance on Saturday. I was really pleased from that piece. And if you can build off of that, I think this defense can surprise you. So I've got a B+ on here. I think you can get to that next step defensively, but for now, it was where we needed it to be for Saturday.
Yeah, I think they continue to build off of some of the changes that they made. I think being down Jalen Davis-Robinson, it seems like the secondary is doing everything they can to improve. Again, keyword there, doing everything they can to improve. I don't know when we see it turn the corner. if we see it turn the corner. It's not necessarily been a great group overall over the course of the last several years. They've just been kind of, playing from ahead. A lot of teams have been passing on them, all that. So you're seeing that was where you saw the yardage. This year, you're seeing it a little bit more consistently, but I think Stanford had 12 yards in the first quarter. I mean, that's pretty strong start for your defense. The offense couldn't take advantage. To your point earlier about the offense, that really should have been a game where offense was at least put a touchdown on the board, and I think the defense and we were talking about this having lunch today with a couple of subscribers. Man, like it's just been some weird plays for some reason, one after another in the secondary that lead to bad things. I mean, the TCU grenade. You have the play this past weekend where Stanford, I mean, he threw it a double coverage down the field, and Ahmad he didn't, I guess you could say he misread it or just didn't take the right. I don't really understand kind of like, I just don't understand how it happened. I understand it's all difficult out there and all those things, but he's made so many plays for SMU. I thought that one was routine for him watching it and how it developed. You give up a 31 yard chunk play and then they score on the next play. So it's always things that lead up to, ultimately the bad things. You mentioned the penalties, 4th and 1, jumped off sides. They were able to at least keep their drive going, even though they came away with nothing. This defense has opportunities to get off the field. They're getting in position to get off the field. They've got to make the plays now to get off the field.
Yeah, and you're not playing against an Eric Amanor like you were last year, where all right, Stanford's pretty bad up front, but they've got this one wide receiver who can absolutely moss you.
Yep.
They're playing against a lot of guys that, frankly, when I'm reading the stats and doing my prep every week, I'm like, who are these guys? And that's no disrespect to them, but there are no big name wide receivers, again, like we're going to see the rest of the year. So it could get dangerous, and SMU made a jump defensively. I don't want to say they didn't, even without Smoke. I like you said, they're doing everything they can. They made some good plays. I think Speedy Nettles probably had one of his better games just watching the tape.
Yeah.
But I will need to see it to believe it against some big-time talent. So I'll move into special teams. This was an A for me. There's one aspect of this that I think can improve. Sam Keltner went 2 for 2 on his field goals, 4 for 4 on extra points. Kicked a 48-yarder. I think he's getting some of his confidence back. Love to see that. Wade McSparron did a nice job again. 43 yards per punt, 2 downed inside the 10. Stanford returned 2 kickoffs, 20-yard average, 1 punt return for 0 yards. And then SMU's return game is just the only thing that brought it down a notch. No kickoff returns for SMU, and then 3 punt returns for only 4 yards. Is why I knocked this down from an A to a B+. Overall, pretty good. It didn't beat you. You did well in all of the coverage. You did well of getting points when you needed to. But you just didn't have a game-changing special teams play. And we haven't had one of those yet this year. I'm still waiting on that first special teams win, essentially, because I think against TCU, that punt return for a touchdown where they've got the meme of the TCU guy essentially Superman diving is part of what propelled us to that huge win. It's something that I don't have it on my goals for the game, but certainly couldn't hurt this coming week.
Yeah, especially this coming week. I mean, that's be a huge help for SMU if they could get that across the finish line. And speaking of huge help, we know our friends at Game Time are there for us to help us get into any college football game that we need to these days. You've got all of these college football games across the country. Obviously, this SMU Clemson game was going to be this Goliath matchup, and certainly one that the tickets were going to be impossible to get and all these things. Well, guess what? Our friends at Game Time can get you in on a great deal for this SMU Clemson matchup over there in Death Valley for as little as $39. That's what I saw. Now it's dropped to $33. And that's because Game Time moves with the market as well. That's really, really important to know. You can go there and you're going to see that Game Time guarantee as well helping you out, which means you can 100% trust these authentic tickets to get to you on time and at the best price. And I think fees being included also kind of helps you navigate the whole buying process. I mean, if you want, these great tickets and this great experience, man, make sure that you're not getting hit at checkout with, oh man, another $50, $100, $200 worth of fees. Game Time has those right there as you're browsing. So make sure you take the guesswork out of buying football tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your purchase. We had an On the Pony Express subscriber ask for that today. That is ON, the number 3, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And they, of course, present the Film Room with Hayden Howerton. So show us the way, buddy. You've got double-digit plays this week.
We're back, bringing you the Film Room yet again. Guys, I'm bringing you the end zone shots. I know you guys see the sideline shots on TV, on all the Sports Center clips. I'm bringing you guys as many from behind views as I can. Because for me, I didn't watch film any other way. I would watch some coverages, where maybe I'd have to go to the super wide, all 22. But for me, this is my bread and butter. And what I want you guys to watch, especially defensively, is the amount of excitement that the guys are and have for themselves, for their teammates. And I want you guys to watch the effort piece. Offense, you're going to see some smoke and mirrors. You're going to see some really, really awesome plays, to be honest. But defensively, I just think they took a big step forward from a unit as far as playing as one instead of a bunch of individuals, and they did a much better job. So without further ado, guys, I'm so glad we get to bring this to you guys. Shout out to the SMU staff for yet again allowing us to bring this to you guys. Without further ado, welcome to the Film Room. Welcome back to the Film Room. So I wanted to highlight some of the run blocking stuff from this past week's game. While I know that this wasn't the best game overall for a run blocking perspective, as far as I just don't think the volume was there for this unit, I did want to highlight a couple plays here. I want to highlight this inside zone action. I've probably shown this play before up to this season. It's one of our better runs that we have. Just your bread and butter inside zone combos here. So on the front side, you've got a double here between the right guard and the right tackle, and you have an A that I want to highlight here between the center and the left guard. You got Josh Bates, Logan Parr, two of our more experienced guys, and watch how Logan just rolls this guy off the ball. I mean, Josh Bates does a nice job of getting his first two steps in the ground, really setting it up. But Logan does the rest, man. Really just kind of lifts him over. Bates finishes him off here as Logan climbs to the linebacker. This is tough sometimes. You don't want to get overly committed. I would like to see Logan keep that left arm out of it, so that way he can snap off to this linebacker if needed. But does a really nice job of getting him one and then gets him another one here on the back half of the play, just for good measure. A really nice play to kind of set the tone of how the rest of the game was going to go for this offensive line after a couple 3-and-outs, and I think they performed better at this point. All right, so you've seen this play 100 times by now on social media, but I still want to highlight it because you're eventually going to see this play on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they're definitely watching this right now to see how they can implement it in their next game plan. So you start off with the bunch formation that we've seen this year. Kevin kind of spreads everybody out. He puts R.J. Maryland over to his right in an H-back formation. He gets some motion coming from his left, a little speed motion here across the line of scrimmage. But man, look at this. This is fun, man. Kevin flips the ball behind his back to RJ. RJ cuts it upfield for about a 6-7 yard gain. And it's not just the technique and execution. This is our typical two-man guard tackle counter play. But guys are having fun out here. Football's about fun, man. And we need to see more stuff like this, as I think the team played to have fun on Saturday. And you saw the result in the final score. But the more fun these guys can have, the better they'll play, and it'll just keep snowballing. As the better they play, the more fun they'll have, and I think they just turn it on the rest of the season. Because things like this, guys, are things that kind of inspire me and tell me that this team's going to be okay. But love to see this paired with the black jerseys. It was just a fun day on Saturday for this team. So here we've got counter protection, and while I think this is one of our better protections, I do want to highlight what this fake pitch does to the linebackers. I mean, watch 51-0 as Kevin rolls to his left just a hair, acts like he's going to flip it to Derek McFall, and I mean, these linebackers are pretty much running at this point. Even that outside linebacker, 32, is in the middle of the field, would be in a great position if this ball did get flipped, but even he's being fooled by this. It really kind of opens up the section of the field that R.J. Maryland is just slipping through, and then look at this, man. One-handed catch just out in front of him. I mean, this guy can pretty much do it all. And it's good to see RJ back in action. He's doing the things that we're used to him doing. Catches like this, I thought he blocked pretty well. He was the recipient of that behind the back pass, and then he stands over a guy. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's got a lot of confidence right now, and a guy who's just waiting on his breakout game. Could be this weekend, but definitely had a nice game against Stanford last weekend. I wanted to highlight Kevin on this next play and talk about how he takes advantage of these defenses. And Kevin is a smart player, guys. They're bringing 7 here. They've got everybody in a house blitz look. Kevin knows where the extra guy is. It's this number 45 rushing through the line of scrimmage here. And all he does is he drifts away from it, buys enough time to be able to flip it to Derek McFall. Derek McFall's guy is supposed to be this number 29 here. You can see him kind of hesitate for a second, and that's all it really takes as McFall slips behind him. This ends up being an easy score for the Mustangs. Derek McFall does a nice job of tiptoeing down the sideline, but this is all set up by Kevin. I mean, Kevin is a smart player, knows where the rush is coming from, buys him just enough time, and when he sees a mismatch here where 29 essentially gets his ankles broke by himself because he's not really sure what to do, SMU takes advantage. So great job, Kevin, kind of using his smarts as well as his playmaking ability and getting the ball into our playmakers' hands for another touchdown. All right, so a misconception about run blocking is I think a lot of people think that to be effective at blocking the run, you got to blow guys off the line of scrimmage. And I'm here to tell you that's not always the case. While it certainly helps to have some run graders, guys that can move guys from point A to point B, the most critical thing in the run game from a schematic standpoint is the angles. And we had to get some angles back here. So this is one of our basic inside zone runs. This is the long touchdown run here to go ahead and spoil it. But we have an out here on the left, an A in the middle, a C on the backside, and then you've got Matthew Hipner really wheeling out for the next guy. And I wanted to highlight really everybody as, with the exception of Chambly, who I think loses his guy late, everybody keeps their defender on their left shoulder. So we're doing a great job of creating a wall here that Chris Johnson Jr. can follow. And yeah, Chambly loses his guy late, but he doesn't end up in the play because RJ Maryland really ends up blocking 2 here because he takes his guy on his angle that he meant to get him on. He gets him covered up enough, and Matthew Hipner just wheels and gets the next guy. This safety filling here is actually in a pretty good spot. He turns, and he's running on a good angle. But, guys, this is just track speed. I mean, I have never seen somebody on this playing field run away from somebody like this. And I've seen some really fast guys. I played with Reggie. I played with Danny. Guys who can really fly. But this was different, man. Fastest player in college football was Chris Johnson Jr. this past weekend. I mean, even Frank Wright is chasing after him down here on the right sideline. But nobody was going to catch this guy. He was just going to outrun everybody. And this was an awesome run. It was definitely some juice that this team needed to get them going, kind of get some confidence back in the run game. But this was awesome to see. All right, on to the defensive side of the ball. So while offense is something that I personally believe takes all 11 to be successful, defense is something that, yes, that's true at times, but I think a lot of times you can have one guy that makes a hell of a play and makes the other 10 right. So wanted to highlight Turbo over here on the left side. He's really coming into his element lately. This is a pretty good pass blocker for Stanford, number 58. But he takes a good initial set. He's in a good spot. And Isaiah Smith just makes a great move. I mean, he knocks his hands down, gets around, turns the edge. And by the time Stanford runs this little play action protection, I mean, Turbo's just back there, man. Huge play for him. But watch Alex Kilgore here. He's dropping into coverage. He's nowhere around the play. But, dude, he's excited for his teammate. I mean, that's what I've been wanting to see from this team. Guys being excited for each other. Guys are ready to play. And this team is starting to play together. So watch out, guys. SMU is starting to come together, and they're coming alive defensively. It wasn't all really good. I think this style of offense that Stanford brought in brings in some issues as you look at the gaps here as Stanford makes some moves, and they have 5 guys on one side of the ball. They've got center, left guard, left tackle, tight end, and another tight end, which creates A, B, C, D, and E gap. It's not often you see an E gap in football. So defensively, you still have to be gap sound, and that gets difficult and a little hairy, to be honest with y'all, when you get into these really big formations like this. So you look at Wu Spencer, 55, the D tackle right here. He's got the B gap. It looks like the D end, and I'm having a hard time seeing who that is, has the C gap, and it looks like Zakai Barker shuffles in. I'm not sure if he has the D gap or if he has the A gap, but either way, that right there is not what we need. So we've got 3 guys all pretty much bunched up in the B gap right here. You're not going to be successful if you have 2 guys in a gap, much less 3. And so it creates hard angles for our safeties. Ahmad Moses has to come downhill, try to make everybody right. The ball gets bounced a little bit, but I thought the pursuit was a lot better, as we'll see here in a couple plays. But this play was nullified for a holding on Stanford's part. But either way, just something for us to learn off of to maintain our gap integrity when we get into some of these big personnel sets like this. So I had ragged on this defense a little bit early in the season about their effort, to a sense, about how I didn't think they were playing super hard. Well, maybe we just need to wear the black jerseys every week, because watch this here. And it doesn't really matter what the play is. Well, it's just a pretty simple jet sweep motion to a handoff inside that gets bounced. But watch Speedy Nettles here on the backside. He's not even in the screen at the snap. He runs in, he's trying to read it, he works his way all the way around the play. This is him, number 0, coming into the screen late. And just watch how he works from behind the play. He's chasing him down, he's still running, gets in on the tackle late. But look how many jerseys we have here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 black jerseys here in the screen. This is what I've been talking about from an effort perspective. You've got guys that are now taking it seriously against a really run-heavy team like Stanford to run to the football. And guess what? We're going to need that regardless of what the scheme is going forward. But I thought this was a major improvement for this defense week to week, and they showed it against Stanford last week. To kind of keep on the effort piece for one more play, I want you to watch 2 guys here. One is number 9, Cam Robertson, the D end here on the left side of the screen. And you got Speedy Nettles again for the second play on this tape. And he had more plays than just this guy's, but watch these 2 guys specifically. And Stanford is taking their time. They're getting a lot of calls out here on the line of scrimmage. Just another basic inside zone run that ends up getting bounced because Shaq gets penetration here, which good job, Shaq. You influence the play. Keep your feet, though. You're watching Cam here over on the left side, and I think he does a good job collapsing this gap, but the ball gets bounced here. I do think he gets held. I think that should be a 10-yard penalty on Stanford. The ball should get moved back. But no matter, he falls off. He keeps playing. He ends up in on this tackle that starts at about the 3-yard line and is really taking a forward progression towards what's going to be a score until you see Speedy Nettles again. So check now, back at the top of the play, number 0, bottom right corner of the screen. He's reading. He's in a sprint here, and he ends up saving a touchdown. This is a touchdown if Speedy does not get over there, and we'll see what happens on the next play, a couple plays after this, but Stanford does not score on this drive, and this is a huge part why. So, again, great job on the effort piece from the defense. This was awesome to see. So here a couple plays later, after that Speedy Nettles tackle on the goal line, the next play, Stanford draws a penalty from SMU that sets them up at 1st and 5 on the 5-yard line going in. Really bad situation. And when I was watching this game, I said out loud, ball don't lie, pick 6 right here. Hand on the Bible, that's what I said. But this play was set up by a lot of guys doing their job, and I just want to highlight a few of those guys here. So you've got Turbo, number 1 over here. He's adding in on the rush, which hurried the quarterback, hurried the throw. You have Justin Medlock over here on the right side, number 20. His guy is the tight end here, and he does a good job of dropping into coverage late. That really fooled the quarterback. Makes a great play on the ball, and then he's off to the races. And Medlock is from Manville, and I've had my fair share of experiences with Manville High School, but look how hard guys are running around him. And Brandon Maiazono was essentially in on the pressure here, and he turns around and becomes the lead blocker for his teammate. I mean, look at his head on the swivel. He's looking for somebody to block here. We've got guys hauling down the sidelines, really, really excited for their teammate. There you go. Maiazono gets another block here in about the 15-yard line to ensure that we get the touchdown. But great play by Justin Medlock, set up by a bunch of other guys. So really awesome job by the defense. I think they took a big step this past week compared to what we've seen in the past. While Stanford did get some conversions, I thought they ran the ball well at times. I think overall this defense is getting better and better every week, and I'm excited to see what they can do this week against Clemson. And Billy, welcome back from the film room. So glad I get to get intimate with you guys in the film room. Get to break down a little bit of, kind of what makes me all warm and fuzzy on the inside. Brings me back to some of the glory days. Maybe we need to do a live film room session. That would be pretty sweet if we could pull that off.
Austin?
But I do want to get to my MVP of the week, as you guys saw him on the film room, made a couple appearances. Chris Johnson Jr. There's nobody else. 7 touches, 5 carries, 2 receptions, 138 total yards. And Billy, the athletic ability that he brings to this team is such an asset. I mean, I know we can joke about, we'll just bring as many Miami guys as we can. Somebody's bound to hit. But hitting 22.3 miles an hour on his long run down the sideline, fastest recorded player in college football over week 7. We got to get him the ball in space a little bit more. I think he needs more than 7 touches a game. TJ Harden has been the workhorse for us at running back, but I don't care if it's these little bubble screens. I don't care if it's these pitches. Get him outside. Somebody had told me today that he's better running to the right than the left because of the track lean, running the 200 meter. I don't know about that, but it could be a theory. But either way, Chris Johnson Jr., stoked for him. His first award of the year for me, MVP-wise. But Billy, who do you got?
I already, I think I forgot. I think I might have taken Chris on the post-game show. So there's definitely that. But kind of the more I think about this game and just where SMU was going into it and kind of needing that type of a, feel good performance, I feel like Isaiah Wacobia, looking back on his game, he dropped an interception. It did hurt SMU, but really was able to have his best game. Like, I think it's something he could kind of build off of this season. So I know he has not had by any means the season that SMU wants him to. And I know that they're working with him day in, day out, and he's working really, really hard to kind of right this ship so that the back half of the season is what he wants it to be and what this team needs it to be. 11 tackles, half tackle for loss, a pass breakup. He hasn't gotten a lot of accolades this year for, truthfully, because of his play. But I thought on Saturday we saw a little bit of vintage Isaiah Wacobia. And if that's what SMU gets out of him on Saturday at Clemson, maybe gripping the ball and catching it on one of those, then he has a chance to be an absolute game changer for SMU. And Isaiah does have this ability at times to really rise to the occasion for some of these big games. So SMU needs him. They need one of their captains to have a massive game on Saturday. And against Stanford this past weekend, he did.
Yeah, your best player.
Shout out Sam Keltner, 48-yard field goal. That was huge.
I thought about that for sure. He needed that one badly. But to talk about Isaiah, man, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter what he's done the first 6 games of the year. If he turns it on the back half of the year, I think this DB room goes from being questionable to being, I wouldn't say elite, I would say strong.
Yeah,
I would say when you have the 2 safeties that we do and the talent level they bring, the experience level that they bring, frankly, that attitude that they bring, I think they can go anywhere they want to. And while I'm one that can at least relate to worrying about draft stock, the outside media, things like that, if he can put this behind him and play his best ball against the back half, which is the stronger half, with Clemson, with Miami, with Louisville, and potentially some kind of bowl game, hopefully ACC championship, he will be right back where he wants to be.
Yeah. And it's really important that, SMU gets that out of him. It's really, for this team to go where it needs to go or go where it wants to go, Isaiah Wacobia has to be one of the best players in the back half of the season. It would just, not to put more pressure on him, I think he's somebody that wears enough of it, on his shoulders. So hopefully he does, because he's an all-time great guy. He's an all-time great Mustang on and off the field. And you hope that he finishes it off in great fashion. So before we get into coast to coast, this really podcast, we got to ramp this up a little bit here. It's like 34-10, but a lot of just this team is just frustrating at times. So at the end of the day, though, I think it's important. Now, I like Rhett shouting out the winning streak. I was kind of like, okay, all right, like, it's fine. But I would just say it more so. It's really hard to win 34-10, or even last week against Syracuse, the way they were winning conference games at the Power 4 level, like those type of leads, and that too. Like it's when you're in a conference and you're at a certain level, like it's hard to win week in, week out. Look at it across college football, which will show in coast to coast, but the conference winning streak is great. All those things that they've done to go 19 straight at this point, the nation's best streak. It's much more about these games in conference. Like SMU, wasn't Georgia Tech surviving Wake Forest. Like, no offense, I think Wake Forest is clearly better than what maybe we all thought preseason, but I mean, surviving Wake Forest and really should have lost that game. SMU's not done that relative to some of these opponents yet. We'll see. Maybe we'll be eating the words next week, but I don't know. It's a competitive league. I mean, it is. So
I'm not one for moral victories.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the end of the day, you look at SMU's streak and what they've done in the 19 conference wins in a row.
Yeah.
Billy, before that streak, if you beat Syracuse and Stanford in back-to-back wins when we're a member of the American, I think we're both jumping up and down on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we made it. But now we've been spoiled with our success that we've had, and now it's the expectation. And expectations are heavy, man, but pressure makes diamonds. To where now this is what is expected going forward. And I think, again, 2 years ago, oh, man, you're playing on the road at Clemson, or, hey, you're hosting the number 2 team in the country. Let's just keep it close.
Yeah.
Now it's, all right, what do we need to do to win this game and put ourselves on the national stage as a front runner in the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Yep. Completely agree. And speaking of front runners, there's only one way to become a front runner in the world of business, and that is to get with our friends at My Perfect Franchise and leave the corporate rat race, right? For the American dream. That's what Andy Ludicky and his company can help you do over at My Perfect Franchise. Go to their website, myperfectfranchise.net. Follow their discussion about what you're looking for in a business, all the different avenues you could go down. Listen to their success stories and get with Andy Ludicky, our franchise consultant, on how he can help you become his next success story at myperfectfranchise.net. Make sure you email him, Andy, A-N-D-Y, at myperfectfranchise.net to get on his calendar, or give him a call, 404-973-9901 today. Join up with the franchise ownership world and become your own boss. Live the American dream. And Andy Ludicky and his free franchise consultant business can help you do that today. And all it takes is a phone call, 404-973-9901. So, and then you could just travel coast to coast, right?
Man, one of my favorite segments that we get to do every week. Just, if you're a fan of college football, this segment is for you. If you're one of the sickos out there like I am, love you guys. But Friday night, I did not get to watch this game. I was in Katy celebrating the 10th anniversary of my high school team. But North Texas hosting South Florida.
I mean, come on,
all right,
should have added that into the rundown for you.
Okay,
kind of
quick about that. Just personally, selfishly, it was amazing. It was so cool seeing all the people. I mean, I haven't seen those guys, the seniors. I haven't seen since they left the high school. I mean, I've seen a couple of those guys, but just to at least kind of reminisce and talk about the memories, the what a special group, not of players, but of young men were on that team. You had a lot of really selfless individuals. And that's where, Billy, now in my adult life post-football, man, I miss that. I miss the team, the camaraderie aspect. They went around the room at the end of the night and the head coach literally handed a microphone around where it was like, tell what you're doing now, where you live, your most embarrassing story and your best memory. And I'll share my most embarrassing story in the off season. But a lot of guys talked about that their best memories were the Wednesday night position dinners where me and the rest of the O-line would go to somebody's house. Their parents would make food. And it wasn't about the food. It was about the just hanging out. And so to reminisce on some of that and see some of those guys again, it was unreal. It was so awesome.
All right. Well, enough with the accolades for old Hayden Howerton. Let's get into the accolades that we've got to throw to my hometown.
Talking about the Bulls, baby. South Florida. North Texas, they're hosting South Florida. First ever sellout at that stadium, which shocked me. But this game was going to determine one of the front runners, and not just the American, but the group of 6 as a whole. South Florida weathers the storm. They go down early, 7-0. They fumble the following possession, but they battle back. The game's tied 21 at half. But Billy, the Bulls just ran away in the second half. South Florida scores 28 points, first 5 minutes of the half. And let's talk about Byron Brown, man. 5 touchdowns on the day, 3 passing, 2 rushing. South Florida looked on a different planet in the back half of that game. North Texas is a very good team in its own right, but South Florida is just different this year, man.
Yeah, it is really a different team. Alex Golsh and what he's done, and talk about somebody who has his team probably weathering a little bit of that coaching carousel conversation around him, to go on the road and perform the way they did. Kudos to them. I wasn't shocked at all. No disrespect to North Texas, but the way USF is operating right now, they're at a really high level, and they, without a doubt, needed their flowers, and just the way they've been able to put everything together so far this year, and just have really been able to step up. I think they're just a team on the rise, and they deserve all the credit for the way they were able to handle things on the road in Denton, fully sold out stadium as well. So they navigated it well, and I'm not surprised at all.
I'm also not surprised about Indiana. I mean,
wow.
Game day went to this game. I think Oregon is an elite team, but watching Indiana over the last year and a half, Kurt Signetti said, Google me, I just win. And that's never been more true, because the pairing between Kurt Signetti, Fernando Mendoza after he transferred in from Cal, this thing is lethal. I mean, Fernando Mendoza tossed a clutch fourth quarter touchdown on the road at Eugene. They're riding an 18-game home winning streak, and Indiana doesn't care. Now, there is a long way to go in the rest of this season. I still think Oregon is going to be a college football playoff team. But Indiana is going to play in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship, in my opinion. They don't play any more ranked teams on their schedule. Oregon still has to play USC, who's proving to be one of the better Big Ten schools. I don't think they're what they were, but offensively, they are elite. So I don't know. I think the Big Ten, you've got Ohio State as the clear number one until proven otherwise. But Indiana is going to be right there too.
Fernando Mendoza is one of the best stories in college football. I mean, what he's been able to do since coming in there at Indiana, he's now turned himself into a future draft pick, and a high one in all likelihood too. So kudos to Kurt Signetti. I mean, just being on that staff with Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, he obviously picked up some really good things. And I think for him, he's going to have to battle the storyline around him and Penn State, and how that unfolds. But I think there is something too in this day and age of college football. And obviously this is, for SMU fans, some are probably wish casting this as well, but the path to winning a national championship is easier at certain schools. And, is it easier than at Penn State, or can you, make a run at Indiana when they're as committed as they are? I don't know. And somebody's going to clip that or something, but I mean, Penn State, all that pressure, all that, those clear, unrealistic expectations that you have to live with, sometimes that's not the world you need to live in either. Like, if Indiana won the national championship, it wouldn't shock me now that they've gone on the road and beaten Oregon. But they're going to probably have to do it again in the Big Ten championship, or they're going to have to beat Ohio State. So it's a, I don't know. It's
now so new.
Yeah.
The culture is still so new there that it's, while, yes, they have done it over the last year and a half, I need to see it for, I would say, probably another full year before I go, okay, Indiana is legit and here to stay. Yeah. Because you can be a flash in the pan, and it all fall to pieces real quick.
Yep. Look at Clemson in a way.
Yeah. But Georgia Bulldogs survived a scare at Jordan-Hare. Deep South's oldest rivalry. The Bulldogs take on the Auburn Tigers. But it did end like the previous 8 meetings. Georgia has now won 9 in a row. They win the one on Saturday 20-10. And that's, the game is not as much what I'm going to talk about as I am about some SEC officiating, as Billy, you've seen over your time covering it.
Weird things. Usually goes for Auburn, but not in this case.
But goal line fumble, Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold looked to have broken the plane. I thought he had it. There was not enough evidence on the field, so it results in a Georgia turnover. Okay. Kirby Smart called a timeout. I don't care what he said, who he told, what he paid, but this was overturned. Kirby was arguing he was clapping, he was clapping like this for my YouTube viewers, but he's obviously calling a timeout. The video evidence proves it. The rule book states timeouts cannot be overturned. But it was anyway. No penalty, no action by the SEC so far has been taken against Coach Smart or the official, which is just shocking to me. I mean, Kirby is such a prominent college football figure, and I love Kirby. I have a deep respect for head coaches that played at the school that they are now coaching. I love that. I love that story.
Yep.
And he's done a fabulous job with Georgia. However, man up. Don't be a liar. Nobody likes lying. It's a sin, Kirby. We all have to atone for our sins one day. So just man up to it, bro.
Oh gosh, I just that Auburn game, Auburn Georgia game is just so insane. It's insanity to me. I mean, it really is. So
yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
Some quick hitters. We do have some quick hitters for you guys. Bring you guys just a couple more things before we go. Number 4, Ole Miss survives Washington State. Same Washington State team that got boat raced by North Texas. Goes into Oxford. They do put on a scary 14-10 lead late, but Ole Miss probably overlooked them before a big game next week. But they will prepare for a big road test against Georgia. And then, guys, we've got Maction back. So for all of you absolute sickos,
tonight, isn't it on right now?
It's I think Wednesday nights for sure. I think next week is when it moves to Tuesdays.
Hold on,
but
I swear
we're about to have football 7 days a week.
No, tonight live we got New Mexico State, Liberty, Arkansas State,
awesome.
South Alabama, FIU, Western Kentucky. Let's go!
Awesome.
It's all on right now. We got to get off the air.
Yeah, we need to. But couple carousel pieces. Trent Dilford gets fired at UAB, 9-21 over 3 seasons. Oregon State fires Trent Bray, 0-7. The bigger firing, and shout out to sleeper agent Preston Stone. James Franklin out at Penn State. He's been the head coach since 2014. They had national championship aspirations this year, but they lose 3 in a row. That Oregon loss has obviously just killed them. But hey, great on Preston Stone in Northwestern. Preston is in the environment last year in the playoff, in the whiteout. Walks out of there, your tail's between your legs, but goes in there this year and they just get it done. I mean, I don't know what it is about Northwestern being the Grim Reaper of the Big Ten, but for whatever reason, they seem to upset some big coach, big team, and the coach ends up fired a couple days later. But great for Preston. I'm so happy for him and getting his fresh start over there at Northwestern. But James Franklin, and as much as I've clowned on him, he is as a person, a really great person. So you have to just make that separation, and Penn State obviously has, because the doing less with more, I can't even really point at A&M as now they're a top 5 team.
Yep.
But now you got to look at Penn State being the biggest disappointment with the level of resources, talent, conference prestige, home field advantage. I mean, everything, and he just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I think, relative to preseason expectations, I mean, you're right on there. For Penn State to be in the situation they're in, I mean, I don't know what went wrong. I mean, we're seeing it across college football where, and SMU's in this bunch, don't get me wrong. You have teams with great quarterbacks coming back, and Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller and Kevin Jennings and Lenore Sellers, at South Carolina. LSU has they're still in it, but they're not the team that they kind of thought they were. You have got to figure out ways to make your roster better as everybody tries to get better. Or you have to, maybe it's not a bad culture thing. It's not like the culture is bad, but how do you get the group of guys when you have so many people returning to then take that next level up?
Yep.
Like Tyler Warren was not on that Penn State team this year. Abdul Carter was not on that Penn State team this year. Missing somebody we talked with at the East West Shrine Bowl, DB, name's escaping me. Covered him in recruiting. He's a local kid. It's killing me. But, you have to replace some of these guys and you have to bring it to the next level. And, for some of these teams, we've not seen that level hit this year yet. The good thing is for SMU, their goals are still in front of them. We know we can circle that back. Penn State's goals are pretty much done. That's why they made a move in part. But, how Like, I think some of these schools have to look internally and say, okay, is it the coach, or in this new era, are we not putting enough resources and emphasis from our side of things to then make sure that X school is in position to build off of all of these wins that James Franklin's had? Because I would argue, yes, Penn State's offense, their offensive coordinator, I forget his name, but does some really interesting things. But Drew Aller hasn't gotten any better. So, like, where do you then say, okay, and also they lost a couple of really good receivers off that team. When do you say, oh, okay, like, yeah, whatever, we're going to lose those guys, but we're actually going to come back and we're going to get better? Like, Georgia Tech ended up, being a better team this year despite losing some key guys that went for seven figures to go elsewhere. So you've got to balance all of that, and you've got to look internally. But maybe Penn State looked internally and said, the guys just can't win the big game. It's 12 years of it. We're done. I mean, Tony Dungy got fired by the Bucs for John Gruden because he couldn't win the playoffs, and then goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Colts.
But Penn State also loses Drew Aller for the season. I mean, I think they're just looking at this of, all right, this season's done. Let's just nuke this thing now and move on to next year. So they obviously are going to start the coaching search, but now some other team that's going to have college football playoff aspirations is going to get poached. And regardless of what you guys say about, maybe they'll keep it a secret, I'll tell you, it doesn't work. I've been there. I mean, it's going to get out. Even if it ends up as a rumor, it will distract even the most mature teams. We had a very mature team in 2021. Grant Calcaterra, Tanner, myself, a ton of experience around the room, and it still ended up being a distraction. So I think one of the favorites is Matt Rule, and I'm not saying that Nebraska is a college football playoff team, but don't be shocked if one of these teams kind of go off the deep end and the coach gets poached at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's crazy, man. It's nuts. So, well, with that, everybody, we've got a special guest for you guys lined up on Wednesday, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And then, of course, the SMU Clemson preview on Thursday. So, for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. Really appreciate you guys listening, of course, to us. And we'll catch you guys next week as we'll recap the SMU Clemson game, whatever the result. And we'll catch you guys then. So, thanks for listening, everybody. Hit that follow, subscribe button, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.